Now bring me in. I want to learn about Gem-E. I want to know what you've been tinkering with, all of that.
Let me just give you a little bit of a recap. We capture buying signals and essentially end-to-end workflows, but we focus mainly on people signals. So things like champion job changes, new hires, promotions, referrals. Like, what is the reason that you're reaching out to a person on their level rather than like someone from the company is on your website or congratulations on the funding? Like, we're kind of bringing both of those two things together and then automating a workflow end-to-end with custom messaging. So as you can see here, like kind of where we started up here with our people signals. So tracking your buyers, but also any type of new hires, since those people probably have budgets, they're looking to solve some type of a problem. It's a really great time for outbound. But then we also provide additional signals. So we also find like the rest of the buying group that you should go after. So any type of like prospecting an SDR would do, we just do the whole thing.
Cool.
But on all of that, we do also find account signals. So those things like funding and website visitors and good fit customers based on your other customers. And so what we do is two things. We first prioritize both the accounts and then the prospects within them. And then we automate all of the outbound. So kind of what that looks like in other platforms is a lot of workflows. So you have to think through like the differences here. So I'm getting a bunch of signals from like an intent platform and like LinkedIn Sales Nav and Zoom Info and like wherever my team is finding prospects. And then I'm trying to figure out a way to make sure that they're messaged. And all of those different combinations versus like someone's on your website and they got funding and there's a past champion and there's a new hire, trying to put all of those together would end up with countless workflows.
Yeah.
So that's why we built Gemi. So Gemi is one workflow and it is one sequence. And it kind of does, like I mentioned, two things. So first, it prioritizes who you should go after. So both the accounts and the people. I think the and the people is the really important part. A lot of like intent accounts that you might be familiar with, like Sixth Sense, demand based, like they kind of focus on like the what accounts should your team work with. Whereas we are doing both. We're doing what accounts, but also who should you reach out to. And then we are also creating the messaging and sending it out. So you can see something. I don't know if you've seen any of the AI SDRs in the world. They're getting a lot of smoke for being like quite bad in terms of like the messaging they are creating. But that's because they're scraping things like their LinkedIn pages or like just kind of general things about the person that aren't actually really personalized messaging, which is what you'll see here on the left, things about like that you could scrape off someone's LinkedIn page, whereas Gemi only uses those two buckets of signals that I showed before. So like the person level signals, so what's happening to that person in their career, and their job title and like what they care about in terms of their persona and their teams that they're on and what initiatives might be relevant. But also things at the account level. So like, was there funding? Or, like, was someone on the website? Or is one of their competitors our customers? So we'll only use those types of data points and then generate a message, kind of like the one on the right, that have both the person signals and the account level signals within that message.
Cool. Yeah, it looks way better. The email on the right is so fantastic. How does this actually appear for users, like
Yeah, that's a good question.
in the product itself?
So actually, we don't have like reps log into our own product, so they would see it like in a different combination of ways in their like sales engagement tool. So we use
Oh,
Outreach, and it's just like I said, it's one sequence. So basically, it's just like these custom variables, and then Jemmy will just populate right into a rep's Outreach, Sales Loft, Apollo, Gong Engage, like wherever they're working, where they're executing actual messaging tasks.
okay. Wow. So it's an integration essentially.
Yeah, so these are like those people signals that I talked about, but we also integrate with like intent tools and other like website visiting tools, and then we can provide funding, hiring, custom signals if someone might have them. Yeah.
Wait, let me
Um,
just repeat it back to you, just make sure I get it. So the
yeah,
signal library, I as a user of UserGems would turn on which signals I want to affect my prioritization in my outreach tool. Is that right?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
And the
Got it.
messaging. Um, so like those messages that Jemmy
And the
makes is going to
messaging.
be
Okay,
based
got it.
off of like all of the signals.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So
Yeah,
these are almost like switches that when you turn them on, it affects
exactly.
Jemmy's like everything. Okay.
That's exactly how it works. Yeah. So basically, like Jemmy will take all of the signals that you turned on, it will generate automatically like your value prop and your persona and like what your product actually does. And then it will generate messaging. You can see here, this is all back end. So something I would consider here is like on the user level, they would see everything executed in like their outreach or their sales loft. I would say something else that's important is like the accounts ranked by the most likely that they would be to convert based on the signals that we find. But also you can see we prioritize the people within the accounts based on
Oh,
how likely we think they're going to respond to a
okay.
message. So
So
you can
these
see like,
signals that I'm seeing on the right, are those also ones that would be turned on in the library? Okay, copy.
yeah, so like these are your champions, they were an opportunity. And then if you look at the emails, these would be the ones that would populate in outreach. So you can see like the reasons to engage based
That's
on all of
so
their
cool.
signals. Yeah, and
Okay.
then it will generate not just one message, it will generate a few different messages and they'll try to like weave together. So you can see like first we say thank you for bringing us on to her past company. This is like our value prop here that we customized. And then we also try to loop in anyone else at the account who has used our product. So you can see like Lori somewhere also used our product. So
That's so
we'll try to like
smart.
mention other people in the account. And that's all based on CRM data. So like we're also like trying to pull in the relationship data in their CRM. And then you can see in the second email, we mentioned a competitor of theirs. So I guess Amplitude and Full Story are competitors. And then we also kind of like tie it back to that first email of like, P.S. Did you ever talk to Lori about us? Kind of trying to like make it a little bit more personal and make them make sense together.
Okay, cool. What's gonna stand out for someone watching this, like a sales leader especially? What's gonna stand out as like very different from other AI agent?
Yeah, I think the simplest way to describe it is other AI SDR agents out there, they don't have their own data. So what happens is they use the same third-party data providers, like all of them. So in a way, you can describe it as a very sophisticated GPT wrapper. So then what happens is they build an app that sits on top of the borrowed data versus UserGems, which is vertically integrated. So we find our own data, we test it, we verify it, and that's all of the signals from UserGems. So then what we do is we build the AI last to sit on top of the data. And that's why it writes really good email. It's not because we write good email, we write good emails because of the data.